We'd like to call the meeting to order. If you, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's not on the agenda. In a moment of silent prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. At this time, we have public comments. You have 3 minutes per person, and you can also speak on every agenda item. If you would just give your name and whether you're a township resident or not for the person who's doing the minutes, that would be grateful.
Hello, Alicia Dyer, Ypsilanti Township. I was here for the working session. I just wanted to say thank you to Trustee Peterson and Trustee Rowe and Trustee Swanson for stepping up and doing the ARPA outreach, but also we would love to, use our group to help you guys in any way, even like the door-to-door stuff. We've also been doing that, and we think it'd be really cool if we could all go to door-to-door. We can break up the neighborhoods, also not to duplicate efforts. But we also don't want to be a hindrance to what you guys do, but we also want to make sure that we can stay involved as residents. And so we really appreciate that. And so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Reference some of the other comments at the working session. I think that there's been a lot of miscommunication going on. We've heard things. I'm sure you guys have heard things. And
About what?
I'm not really going to get into all the miscommunication, but I'm just going to say that I think that we can all work together. It is possible, and we've been trying to do that from the start. And so we just hope in the future that it doesn't become adversarial. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
My name is Arloa Kaiser. I live at 1421 Melvin Street. And if you are unwilling to state what the problems are to everyone doesn't know what you're talking about. What I would like to see is to help all of us is get back to the one-on-one neighborhood watches where we can meet as a group so that if I have problems in my neighborhood watch, I can go to another one, say West Willow, and talk to them so that it is more than just a group here, a group there. And hopefully that will happen soon, that we can get back to our old schedule and one-on-one, and I think that makes a difference as opposed to, like Zoom and all that kind of stuff, that it makes it a group, a friendly group that you can talk one-on-one and get it out of your system what you really think. So thank you for all the work that you all do that we don't even see. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, I live on Kennedy Street in Ypsilanti, and it seems that we have a big problem there. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I'm sure the deputy over there is aware of 559 Kennedy Avenue. The big picture window in front of the house is broke out again. There are a lot of people staying there that don't live there in the neighborhood. I have grandkids. I'm afraid to let them go outside and play because of the traffic and the grade of people that are there. A lot of traffic at night after dark.
Okay.
Just people we've never seen before. On my way here, I seen 3 people go into the house. Rumor has it she rents rooms for $20 a week or whatever.
Okay.
But I'm sure the deputy is aware of 559 Kennedy.
Well, we can definitely.
I've never seen the police on our street as much as I've seen them in the last year.
Okay.
And I've been there for 20 years.
All right.
But I fear for my kids, my grandkids.
Okay. I'm sorry for that. And Shane, he's our lieutenant in the sheriff's department, and he can go outside and also talk to you and get more information. It is the first time I've heard of it, so I'm not sure if it's an ongoing issue.
The sheriff department's been there during the daytime because somebody was breaking in They jumped out of their cars with guns drawn and everything, kids
Oh,
playing in the street.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's
I'm
just
sorry.
ridiculous,
All
you know?
right.
Okay, I've been offered drugs.
You have to go to the microphone, I'm sorry. And your address for the,
540 Kennedy.
thank you.
I've been offered, they came up to me, offered me drugs, sex for $30.
I'm sorry.
Actually, we talked to an officer the other night, and we set up cameras yesterday that they now have access to. They can
Okay.
actually watch the cameras and see
Okay.
how bad it really is.
Well, thank you for coming tonight, and we will absolutely follow up on your
welcome.
concerns. And Shane will get your numbers, right, Shane? Or
Oh, he knows, I'm sure he's
Huh?
been there a couple times.
who is it? Is it not Shane? Who is it? Deputy Van Duzen is here in place of Shane. I'm sorry, you're all covered up, I couldn't see. So we can get your, the officer can get your number and make contact with you once we look into this issue, and I'm very sorry.
They have our names and numbers, we have talked to them.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for coming out, and I apologize that you have to go through that.
Well, it's just to a point to where you people need to do
Yep.
something. I mean, the
Yep.
picture window on the house was broke out, they put a new one in. It's already shattered, they got a big piece of cardboard, tapes running all
All
the
right.
cracks together.
Okay, we will address it, sir, I promise.
And in the summertime,
Sir?
I noticed that
You got to go back to the microphone. The person does some minutes. I'm sorry.
as I was saying, the picture windows all broke out and everything in the house. In the summertime, it was like they were hiding something next door because nobody lived there. Don't know if it was drugs or what, but you would see them late at night go from their house over next door, and then they would come back to their
Okay.
house.
We'll get you with the deputy before you leave still, just to get a little more information, so he can hear it firsthand. Would you like to step out to do that? No.
And to go out here and talk.
Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda, which is the minutes of the January 18th work session and regular meeting. Oops, I'm sorry, consent agenda, minutes of the January 18th work session and regular meeting, statements and checks for February 1st. We need a motion.
So move.
Motion Gerald Rose, support Eldridge. Is there discussion? I made a few corrections and submitted them. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any general legal update, Mr. Winters?
Madam Chair, I would just have to say that I did read the minutes from the last board meeting about the attorney report, and everything I said then is true today. There's still a tremendous amount of challenges they had in regards to what the board faced during the first 31 days in January. And it just seems like, again, this is going to be a very, very challenging year, getting into a number of contract negotiations still and other issues that are somewhat related to that as well. The only comment I would add to the discussion about the Linux DX request for a temporary use, and it's more of an issue that I don't know exactly. It may fall outside the realm of the ZBA, but it's also one that I think it's worth at least noting, only because we talk about the opportunity zone index, we talk about many other things. One thing that I noticed, well, first and foremost, before we could even get to where this would be in proper form to be considered by the ZBA, we have to have, I say we, the township or the ZBA, has to have a copy of the lease agreement from the property owner to Lennox saying, yes, you have my permission to be here. Otherwise, this is private property, and as we all know, you cannot just open up without having a lease or legal right to be there. Otherwise, the property owner is the one that would actually take legal action. the thing that kind of struck me over the last number of letters I've written, each time I look at this, I still am puzzled by it. On this lease agreement, I realize they have a lease agreement in Ypsilanti Township or in Arbor, and I believe it's with a church. I think it's 242. And the reason why I'm kind of contrasting that lease arrangement with the one here in this township is that when I looked at the lease agreement, it's actually one where the Lennox DX is paying the shopping center owner $20,000 a month. That's a pretty significant, amount of dollars. And I'm just thinking to myself, a church over here in Arbor, okay, I'm not sure what their lease agreement is, but I could just think of any number of churches in the community that probably would have been ideal for this testing site. The $20,000 a month would have been re-leveraged back into the community, the congregation perhaps, in a way that you see that dollar goes around many, many times. And I just thought it was interesting that had we known that this was a viable, this was something that was being pursued, we would have maybe had a chance to just, no, I'm not saying that they don't have a right to go to where they want to go. I'm just saying $20,000 a month for a year is an awful lot of money. In fact, it's so much money that I've had to give a copy of this lease to the assessing department to make them aware, because this is, the lease, if it's approved and extended, would be for 2 years. That would be almost $500,000, which is quite a bit of money that I know a number of churches would have that kind of ideal parking lot as well that could have perhaps used that. The only other comment I would make is that this lease actually, just for clarification, in regards to what is required, it kind of parallels the requirements of the ZBA in the sense that under this lease, which again, I didn't receive until January 24th or 25th. I think it's actually dated January 12th, but it's effective January 1st. In this lease, Lennox DX is required by the shopping center to, these are their words, to apply for and receive a license or certificate of occupancy from the local community, including the use of on-site generators supplying electric, potable water, fuel storage tanks, and the like. And 3, comply with all applicable local, county, state, and federal laws and regulations regarding COVID testing. The point of this right now is that even without the township having a ZBA process to approve a temporary use, this lease agreement would have required Lennox DX to actually make application, be licensed properly, and to have the local community approve the on-site generators. I did send over to the board, I think yesterday, a follow-up letter from Dan Kimball that he talks about the continuing on-site inspection of that use over there and the spill containment dike and damage that was done. And I think that Lennox DX is proceeding in good faith to address all of these issues. The only point I'm making is that there appears to be other issues. I know Dave Bellers has raised some issues about the impending storm and what the plan might be for the inclement weather if it actually hits us as bad as it does, as predicted. Township's closing for 2 days, so I think the township's taking it seriously, so I expect that to probably be accurate this time. And so I think I'm going to keep on sending these recommendations and queries to the board, and because I believe it's going to be helpful to the ZBA when they do review this to make sure that all the conditions and requirements that are going to make this a safe place to be is truly honored. And I think they will. I did do a little bit of digging into the Linux DX, and that wasn't that surprised, but I was kind of somewhat. I found it just a little bit ironic that when they were promoting their business to area hospitals and to nursing homes especially, and to many other places where COVID has had a horrific impact upon the day-to-day operations, that they stressed to the St. Joe Hospital as well that the strength of their testing and how it meets all of the regulatory approvals, reporting requirements, that they are on top of their game in regards to billing and how they handle insurance. And my only point is right now is I don't doubt for a moment that everything they said that they are required to do, that they do. I don't doubt that for a moment. And I don't doubt for a moment that they have spent a lot of time and money and effort to ensure that they have top-notch compliance officers within the corporation to make sure that they can show St. Joe, show the nursing homes, show the state of Michigan, show the federal government that they are billing properly, that they are meeting all the regulatory approval reporting requirements, et cetera, because that's what they have to do in order to, I think, to be properly held accountable. And I just contrast that with the fact that what the township seemingly had to go through just to get us the information to do that, because that's all that we wanted was just the information. And so, but I think that, you know, they filed the ZBA application, but I think the information will be helpful to continue to share with the board and to people on the ZBA. And I say that at the time because I made it quite clear in one of my letters that Linux DX, you know, is not one of those COVID pop-up sites that's been on the national news, NBC News. To get on the NBC News, where you're broadcasting a story to millions and millions of people by Lester Holt, one of the most distinguished reporters, news anchors in my generation, my lifetime. He reported how there was one company based out of Chicago that had popped up in 300 locations in 29 states, and obviously has been shut down by a number of attorney generals because they were not labeling the specimens, they were not doing things properly, they were not local approvals, and it just contrasts the fact that we want people to follow the rules and have proper credentials, which I believe they do, but you still got to go through that process, because the last thing you want, I think, is someone who's not properly credentialed popping up in another place and saying, well, we'll get you the information when we feel it's appropriate, or point to them saying, well, they were allowed to operate for a month without a filing. So we want people to be held accountable in a way. We want to make sure. I think the ZBA is planning an expedited hearing just so they can get their approvals and at least for our ordinance does allow it to be for 6 months, and then if they wish to reapply after that, they can do that. But I just kind of thought it was interesting that in SIO, the church is the one that's that has the lease, and I'm not promoting any one church, but I just remember talking tonight about Pastor Krause Church being one that is looking to do some things with development, and I'm just trying to think of it. And we've had I think we may have had a COVID vaccine clinic at Pastor Krause Church. I believe we had one of those events over there that was put on by the health department early on during COVID. And I'm not aware of any problems with the traffic circulation and the patterns over there. And I'm just saying right now, it is what it is, but I would like to see that $20,000 maybe per month go to maybe someone in the local community as opposed to someone in Bloomfield Hills who owns property, has a vacant shopping center, and now may have more incentive to keep it vacant for 2 years because of the cash flow coming in from this business. Again, it's why it's a capitalist society and we live in, and these are the rules we live by. I'm just expressing the irony between the locations in SIO versus Ypsi and the benefit that I think it would have been if we could have kept that money in the community. But I think from a health and safety standpoint, I'm going to keep on sharing all those emails with all of you so that your files are complete and the proper conditions can be attached and recommended if deemed appropriate. And other than those updates, again, labor negotiations are going on or will be going on pretty soon with once everybody gets their schedules. This week was another kind of a blow for scheduling because of tomorrow and Thursday being days we just have to let go. The gentleman spoke to us this evening about issues that sounds like a public nuisance, and we continue to deal with those. I would be remiss if I did not at least mention both Belinda Kingsley and her staff, as well as Jason, his staff, Dave Bellers and his staff, for really working together on neighborhood stabilization issues. Belinda stepped into a position that was held for many years by Mike Radzik, who had done a great job in overseeing all this. And so she's stepped in and done a very, very good job in trying to oversee a reorganization. And we all have to, like, as Debbie mentioned before, we got to show a little bit more patience and a little bit more kindness and be a little bit more tolerant sometimes when people have a misstep along the way, because, I don't care who you are, when you take over any new job or any new role, there's going to be those hiccups along the way. And after all the years sitting over here, I still have a lot of hiccups that I have to sometimes. That's why I carry around a fork in my back pocket, because sometimes I'm used to eating crow. So it's just part of what we do, and it's always good to be humble. So, anyways, that's the update in regards to what I had to say, and I guess you can leave the crow fork out of the minutes if you want to. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Winters. Any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I just had a question for Attorney Winters. Attorney Winters, I was just curious of, I guess, your opinions or thoughts on some training for our Zoning Board of Appeals members and maybe even for our own board here. I think that it's really important when we're elected or appointed to boards. They're making these decisions, such as temporary zoning uses, that we don't show bias ahead of time. I know that that's something that's really instilled in nursing and in fact, every board that I've ever served on is to try, to not show bias ahead of time when something comes before you. And it could be, really a great exercise for all of us to just refresh our memories on the process and procedure along with our ordinance. Since we are going through our planning rewrite, it might be a good time as well to review our ordinance process. I think that it's really important that we follow proper channels among ourselves here to communicate effectively and to collaborate with others. We expect that of people at the county level, at the state level, and I think that we should expect that of one another as well. I think it's also vital to all offices, whether or not you're, elected to be your class representative or elected to union office or stay, even all the way to being a state representative, that we follow procedure and process, and it helps bring clarity to our residents who deserve the best and need to know that we are placing them first in all the actions we're taking. And so if there's just a way for us, maybe as a board or at a working session, to make sure that this board and all other boards that represent our township really know that proper service to our residents is important. And placing residents first, to me, means that Ypsilanti Township receives the same treatment as other municipalities do around our county.
Thank you. Any other,
Was that a question? I don't know.
Trustee Swanson?
It was a question? Well,
I got lost.
well, all that I would say is I think that I mentioned at the last board meeting that I thought that this board itself should consider having, this was my words, maybe not the retreat that you think of in years gone by where you actually leave the area, but some day where you could establish your priorities as a township board. And I think I mentioned why at that last meeting. In regards to updates for our appointed boards, I think the Planning Commission, as well as the ZBA and probably any number of our boards, will always be probably receptive to having our planning consultants, the legal staff, and other people also update the number of changes that go on. In fact, we have to look very seriously at our woodlands protection ordinance in light of a recent decision by the Federal Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. So I think those are very much priorities, and I think that we having a training is what I would think would be benefits all of us. That's why attorneys still go to a lot of professional seminars to also learn the latest in regards to what's happening in their field of expertise. And so I think those are all going to be good ideas. I would also remind the board that your board already has adopted an ethics ordinance that already has been acknowledged by all board members and signed by all board members, which I think addresses a lot of those issues that you're talking about in terms of how you handle yourselves in board meetings. So I think right now, but it's a good idea to still go back to that retreat idea about establishing priorities. And if you want to have Jason, myself, Denny, and Ben, and other people look at what training should be maybe presented to the Township Planning Commission, Township Board, ZBA, or anybody else as a part of just a proactive approach, then that's one thing we can look at once maybe things get back to a more degree of normalcy. So, good questions.
I think they did that, didn't they, Jimmy and Gloria? Didn't they do training to ZBA? But, I mean, we could always need more things.
Well, I appreciate the updates that have been shared by Supervisor Stumbo and by Attorney Winters and the comments of the board. I don't want to echo other things because we don't need to listen to all that. There's a lot of concerns that were shared that I had as well. Few things that didn't get mentioned is we do have bio-waste sitting in a parking lot. I haven't heard how that's going to be addressed, so I'm hoping that the Zoning Board of Appeals will be thinking about that. I didn't see the canisters marked, but if they're full of spit, that is a biohazard. At least I'm not a medical professional, but it is a body fluid, and at school we're taught that that's a biohazard. I would also want people to know that there were great efforts to make it look like there weren't other people caring for our community. And there is a medical center in front of this location that has a big sign if you go in there that says Ypsilanti 2020. I believe they've been serving our community since 2020. The day I went in just to check and see, because I'd been told they were doing COVID testing, pretty much the whole room was packed full of people getting COVID testing. So this is a business who has followed proper protocol and procedures to help take care of residents in our community, and they've been there since 2020. So that's important to note. I'm not saying that another service isn't needed there. I'm not saying that drive-through and even spit tests wouldn't be something that people want to happen, but it is important to know that there was another business that's been serving us that got there early to help us, which is what I would want to happen in our community. And so that's part of what we have to think about. I think there are many people on the board that have been advocating for our residents, especially those that are most impacted by COVID, going as far as attending county board meetings to express concern about the fact that we knew early on that there were areas that were impacted heavily by illness before there were vaccinations. So thinking is if we know this, that we would plan for the people who are most heavily impacted to be vaccinated first. That's not what happened when vaccinations were released. And so to hear that a testing site was opened over a year ago, when again, it was known where the areas were that people were being impacted, and for that not to have been located in our community is disappointing. And then the last thing there's two things, two final thoughts. The idea, it's really important to me that we think about the strengths that our community brings. There's a reason why that site is being located where it's being located. One of the strengths that we have in our community is that we have that corridor with I-94 and 23. And so there's easy on, easy off, and sometimes I think people they don't call it for what it is. If you're looking as a business to locate somewhere, you can probably afford to pay $20,000 in rent because you're getting the maximum number of people flowing through there. And if it's true that there are employee contracts, it seems to me that that's the more likely explanation as to why that was such an important site, because you can get people in there, you can get people out of there quickly, and you can get them right back where they got to go to work. Now, that doesn't mean that our residents couldn't benefit from that, but to act like it was just put there to help our residents, I think it's more than that. I think there were other things at play, and that's fine. It's like Attorney Winter said, I mean, that's what happens with business. But then the other side of that is you can't give somebody an unfair advantage by not allowing them or expecting them to do what other businesses would have to do. And then my final thought is, because we have an asset, that's an asset here, and we should be proud of the fact of our location. That's a benefit to us. That's a reason why people might want to locate here. And I don't know why it gets turned into something that's like we're antagonistic. That's not what happened here at all. And then the last thought is just the way the media portrays us. Last month, we had a media group come, and we agreed to this idea that we wanted to project the positiveness about us as a board with that contract. And so a lot was stirred up, and things need to be stirred up. People have a right to say what they're going to say, but calling it a shuttered place, I mean, just that terminology to me, I don't know that that was necessary, and it gives a perception that I don't think is based on our strengths. And so, they have a right, they're journalists, they have a right to free speech, that you have the right to do that, but I think we have to think about, like, when we're participating in those kinds of conversations about our community, right now, every single COVID story has a picture of that tent space. And I think at least twice, they called it like in a shuttered space. That particular building isn't shuttered. There's nothing in it. It's an unoccupied business, but there's it's not boarded up. Like the windows are all open. Like it's a place waiting in a good location for something else. And if it's decided that this is going to happen there for the benefit which is needed because of the pandemic, there is another business that maybe won't be able to locate there should they decide to. And that's not a reason to make it or not, but I do take offense to the media portraying us as this shuttered place, because there are plenty of businesses, including some in that particular area, that just opened 3 months ago that are trying to do like coffee shops and things that are trying to open up in a community during a pandemic, but I don't think they need the weight of somebody referring to it, of that kind of a place. So it is concerning, and hopefully it'll all be taken care of, and
Thank you. Other comment? The only thing I forgot to mention is that we have collaborated with Washtenaw County Public Health and Washtenaw County Equity Office and had vaccination clinics, and U of M, we partnered with them, and we set a tent up in the Civic Center parking lot and had a drive-through there. We had FEMA come in, and they had a tent, and we worked with them, to help service our residents. YCUA, which is our water and utilities on Clark Road, they worked with U of M to have a drive-through clinic too. So we have worked with a lot of organizations that are, they're not public, they're not they're not for-profit, and it worked well. I mean, we have great communication and collaboration. So I just don't know what happened on this one, and I don't know. I know also is that the Zoning Board of Appeals, I sat on that board for many years, and the decisions you make at the Zoning Board of Appeals, they don't come here. If someone wants to appeal a decision of the Zoning Board of Appeals, it goes to circuit court. And it's a very technical, legal board that has to be, that considers, hardships and different reasons for granting certain approvals or denials. And if they don't meet them, then the ZBA, if they deny them, then they can appeal to circuit court, but it doesn't come to us at all. It's a separate board with separate responsibilities and very, very technical. And I understand supply and demand very well, and I think that's what happened. This company was doing very well at the church in Ann Arbor and has several contracts with U of M, Washtenaw County, is what has been stated. I don't know why I haven't seen them. I guess I don't need to see them because they're a private company, and so testing for employees is important, and that's their business. That's what they do. They went from, I think, testing for prostate cancer to this last year. So nothing against the company. I don't like speaking ill towards anyone, but I think there's a big difference between partnering with the county public health and trying to do it locally. And I love the idea. Mr. Winters, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of churches that could have benefited from that. And we could have worked with them to help identify, churches that could do that. And we didn't have that opportunity. We just didn't have it. And we have a lot of employees, and they're all new. Like, we have, so many employees have retired that, and we have new board members, and we have new full-time administrators, and so everyone's working together as hard as they can to learn the processes and how things happen. So it's not easy when you have everyone that's new. The good thing is they're eager, and I love that. And they have energy, and they're accomplishing a lot, but they still need guidance from the attorney and I guess me, because I'm the one that has the most seniority here, and it just helps. We have to help each other get through things, and that's what we're doing. So I'm in with a COVID, so it's been a most unusual start of a year and last year that I've ever experienced in my life, but we're still doing it. And I'm still proud of the township employees and the township board and wanting to do the right thing for the community. That's all I know our hearts are in the right direction to do that. Under new business, we have a request to adopt the 2022 Board of Review meeting dates.
So move.
Support Peterson.
Motion Gerald Rose, support Peterson. Questions or comments? I want everyone to look at their statement that they received from the assessing department, which is the value of your home. Make sure you look at it, and if you don't agree with it, then set up and go to the Board of Review and challenge it. Larry Doe has tried several times. He's not prevailing. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is a request to approve an amendment to the existing agreement with M3 Group for assistance with township mission and vision statements in the amount of $1,800, which is budgeted.
So move.
Support.
Motion Gerald Rowe, support Eldridge. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3 is a request approval of change order number 2 with Stantec for the Loon Feather Park renovation in the amount of $12,500.
So move.
Support.
Okay, you guys. Motion Gerald Rowe, support Eldridge. Questions or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is a request to approve the agreement with OHM for construction engineering services for Phase 1 of Huron Street non-motorized trail in the amount of $68,800, which is budgeted.
So move Peterson.
Support Wilson.
Motion Peterson, support Wilson. Questions or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is a request to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Ann Arbor YMCA for 2022 summer day camp.
So move.
Support.
Motion Rose, support Wilson. This is a great opportunity, 10 weeks of YMCA summer day camps in Clark Road Community Center, and the ages were 5 to 16, so that's cool. We're excited about having that. Any questions or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is a request to approve an agreement with the Washoe County Water Resource Commissioner for vermin management services in a not-to-exceed amount of $150,000, which is budgeted.
Move to approve.
Motion Wilson? Support Eldridge. Questions or comment? We talked about it in the work session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7 is a budget amendment number 2 for Gerald Rowe.
I have a motion to amend the 2022 budget amendment number 2. I would move to increase the general fund budget by $854 to $10,062,481 and to approve the department line item changes as outlined. Move to increase the bike, sidewalk, rec, roads fund budget by $327,800 to $2,570,210 and to approve the department line items changes as outlined. And move to increase the building fund budget by $5,500 to $958,799 and to approve the department line item changes as outlined. So move.
Motion Gerald Rowe.
Support.
Support Eldridge. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorization and bids, a request to approve the contract and award Phase 1 of the Huron Street non-motorized trail construction project to All Star Excavation in the amount of $580,000, which is budgeted.
So move Peterson.
Support.
Motion Peterson, support Gerald Rowe. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Other business and meeting to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion Wilson, support Eldridge to adjourn, and it's 7:46. Thank you. Be safe out there. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I forgot to mention that County Commissioner Ricky Jefferson has entered the room earlier, and I forgot to recognize you, and I apologize. Thank you for all you do for our community, Ricky.